There's one type of meat that most of us still eat almost every single day, yet very few people realize it could be silently damaging their arteries and raising the risk of stroke and heart attack. And here's the shocking part. Many folks actually believe they're making a healthy choice when they eat it. Hello, my name is Dr. David Mitchell. I'm 60 years old and I've spent more than 3 decades working with thousands of patients over the age of 50. Along the way, I've witnessed far too many people lose their health, some even lose their lives because of what seemed like a harmless eating habit. Today, I want to share with you a truth that may surprise you, a truth that could completely change the way you see your daily meals. The type of meat I'm about to reveal doesn't just raise bad cholesterol, it also triggers chronic inflammation inside your blood vessels, slowly stiffening and narrowing your arteries until one day without warning, it leads to a stroke or a heart attack. Now you might be thinking the number one enemy is red meat. But no, the story is much more complicated than that. And if you're a senior over 60, understanding this difference and making the right choices could mean the difference between living many more years in good health or facing dangerous heart problems. So stay with me because we're about to uncover which meat is the real silent killer you need to avoid starting today. You know, for decades, red meat has carried a scary reputation. We've all heard it through the media, through ads, even from family advice. Don't eat too much beef or pork. It's loaded with cholesterol and saturated fat. It'll clog your heart. And so for the past 30 years, most of my patients truly believed the best way to protect their hearts was to cut down on red meat and replace it with white meat. Chicken, turkey, fish. Sounds reasonable, right? But the truth isn't that simple. Modern science has pulled back the curtain on that old way of thinking. Let me ask you this, if red meat were really the number one enemy, then why do people who almost never touch it still end up with strokes or heart attacks? I've seen it happen countless times. Patients living what they thought was the healthy lifestyle, lean chicken breast, grilled salmon, yet one day they collapse because of plaque buildup in their arteries. I remember one patient in particular, Robert, 67 years old. He was proud that he had cut out red meat for more than 20 years. His weekly meals were salmon, chicken breast, and very little fried food. But when I reviewed his angiogram, his major arteries were full of plaque. Robert looked at me in shock and said, "But I did everything right." Why did this still happen, doctor? That question haunted me, and I realized the answer wasn't in the beef or the chicken alone. Here's the truth, cholesterol in food is not the main villain we once thought it was. The human body is more complex than that. What really matters isn't just how much cholesterol you eat, it's how your body processes it and what happens when LDL, the bad cholesterol, becomes oxidized in your blood. That oxidation is what creates plaque, the sticky substance that clings to your artery walls, narrows the flow of blood, and one day with just a tiny clot can trigger a sudden stroke or heart attack. Think of your arteries like the water pipes in your home. It doesn't matter how clean the water is, if the pipes are rusted and clogged, the flow will eventually stop. Our bodies are the same. The issue isn't only the water, the food, but the pipes are blood vessels and how they react to inflammation and oxidative stress. And this is exactly why the old belief, red meat, bad, white meat, good, has misled so many seniors. Yes, certain red meats contain more saturated fat, but that doesn't automatically make them the direct cause of heart disease. Meanwhile, even white meat, the so-called healthy choice for decades, can be harmful if it's cooked the wrong way or if your body is already struggling with chronic inflammation. I'm not sharing this to scare you, but to help you see the bigger picture. The real enemy isn't the color of the meat. It's about how that meat interacts with inflammation, oxidative stress, and plaque formation in your arteries. And that's why today I want to take you deeper so you can face the truth head on and make eating choices that truly protect your heart. Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right yet still not getting the results you expected? If so, you're not alone. Thousands of seniors I've worked with have felt the same way. But here's the good news. Once you understand the truth, you have a second chance to live more years in good health, in peace, without the constant shadow of stroke or heart attack hanging over you. You see, when we take a closer look, truth often isn't what we've been told for decades. Red meat has long been painted as the number one villain, while white meat was praised as the savior. But as I just shared, modern science shows us the problem isn't just about cholesterol or fat in the meat. It's much more complicated, and I want to dig a little deeper with you to uncover the silent culprit almost everyone overlooks. Imagine this, our body is like a finely tuned machine, And our blood vessels are like a river carrying life through every part of us. Everything flows smoothly when there's balance. But once that balance is broken, that peaceful river can turn into a raging flood, slowly eroding the riverbanks and destroying everything in its path. The biggest driver of this imbalance, the unhealthy ratio between two essential fats, omega-6 and omega-3. In the old days, when our grandparents ate natural foods, wild-caught fish, free-range chickens, whole grains, the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in their diet was close to ideal. Maybe 1:1 or at worst. That balance kept inflammation in check, blood vessels healthy, and the heart strong. But today things have flipped upside down. Industrial meat-fried foods, refined grains, and fast food have pushed that ratio completely out of balance. Instead of 1:1, we're living in a world where it's often 15:1, even 20:1. And that massive imbalance turns the body into a furnace of chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is like a tiny fire smoldering inside your blood vessels. It doesn't flare up like a fever or an infection, it just slowly eats away at the inner lining of your arteries. What was once smooth and healthy becomes rough and damaged, the perfect place for cholesterol and plaque to build up. And from there, the road to atherosclerosis, stroke, and heart attack is wide open. Take one of my patients, James, 67 years old. He thought he was eating healthy because he mostly ate chicken and fish and avoided red meat. But when we tested him, his inflammation markers were sky high and his arteries already showed early signs of plaque. The reason his diet was loaded with refined vegetable oils, processed foods, and grain-fed industrial meat, flooding his body with omega-6 while starving it of omega-3. What I want you to understand is this: it's not simply red meat versus white meat. The real issue is how that meat was raised, how it's processed, and whether your diet keeps the omega balance in check. If your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio stays out of balance, it doesn't matter if you swap beef for chicken or pork for fish, the silent inflammation in your arteries will still be there, quietly threatening your heart. Have you ever felt constant fatigue or strange chest pains or joint aches your doctor can't quite explain? Often, that's the quiet voice of chronic inflammation inside your body. And the root cause is usually the everyday foods we think are normal. We live in a world flooded with industrial oils, fried foods, and grain-fed meats. Every meal adds more omega-6, while rich sources of omega-3 like fatty fish, flaxseed, or walnuts are missing. This imbalance doesn't knock us down overnight, but like water dripping on stone, it wears us down day after day until one day it erupts as a stroke or heart attack. So when we talk about the most dangerous meat, I want you to see that the danger isn't only about red versus white. The real danger lies in the omega imbalance in modern diets, an imbalance we've accepted without realizing its price. And understanding this is the key to protecting your heart, keeping your arteries clean, and staying strong well beyond your 60s. The difference between types of meat. My friend, when we just talked about the imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 being like a slow-burning fire inside your arteries, many of you might be wondering, so what should I do? Should I just avoid all red meat and only eat chicken and fish? Is that safer? This is exactly where I want us to go a little deeper, because the truth is not as simple as what health magazines or supermarket ads often tell us. Not all meat is created equal. What truly determines our health is not just whether it's red meat or white meat, but where it comes from and how it was raised. I still remember one of my patients, John, who is now 68. He completely gave up beef for 20 years because he was afraid of cholesterol. But here's the irony. After all those years, he still had high blood pressure, still had plaque in his arteries. When I asked him more about his diet, he told me that most of his meals revolved around industrial chicken straight from the supermarket. That was the moment it hit me. Sometimes what we think is safe may actually be silently harming our health. Let me explain. A cow that's grass-fed, roaming free in the pasture, produces a very different kind of beef compared to a cow that's locked in a feedlot raised on industrial grains. Grass-fed beef contains more omega-3, the healthy fat that fights inflammation and protects the heart. It even has CLA, a compound that helps lower inflammation and manage excess fat. But grain-fed beef, that can have omega-6 ratios of 15:1 or even 20. One basically turning that steak into fuel for chronic inflammation inside your body. The same goes for pork. A pig raised naturally eating a diet closer to its instincts is far less harmful. But factory-farmed pork-fed grains and cheap oils can be just as inflammatory as industrial beef. And chicken, this is the part that shocks a lot of people. For years, chicken has been praised as the heart-healthy white meat. But industrial chicken raised on grain-based feed often has an extremely high omega-6 ratio, meaning when you eat that kind of chicken, you could actually be loading your body with inflammation-driving fats even worse than factory-farmed beef. I know this sounds like it goes against everything we've been taught, but modern nutritional science makes this very clear. Now let's talk about fish. A wild-caught salmon, sardine, or mackerel is rich in omega-3, like a natural anti-inflammatory medicine for your heart and brain. But a farm-raised fish fed processed pellets has far less omega-3 and much higher omega-6. So even within the same food, the difference in nutrition can be night and day depending on how it was raised. I want you to picture this: two steaks sitting side by side in the supermarket. One labeled grass-fed, the other with no label at all. To your eyes, they look almost identical: bright red, fresh, delicious. But once inside your body, one can calm the fire of inflammation in your arteries, while the other can fuel it until it flares out of control. The difference isn't always something the eye can see. My 30 years working with seniors has taught me this. The real danger is not simply red meat or white meat. The real danger is how our modern food system raises and produces that meat. Once we understand this, we don't have to live in fear or follow extreme diets. We can simply make smarter choices, closer to nature, and kinder to our bodies. And that, my friend, is the true key to protecting your heart, your arteries, and even your sharpness of mind well into your 60s and beyond. Because in the end, health doesn't come from eliminating entire food groups. It comes from understanding the truth and making wise choices. The most dangerous meat: processed meat. Now, after hearing me explain the differences between types of meat, many of you might be wondering, so which one is the most dangerous? Which meat should I absolutely avoid if I want to protect my heart and my brain? Well, this is where we step into truly troubling territory: processed meat. And let me say this as someone who has spent decades working with thousands of older patients. If there's one type of meat you should minimize, or better yet, completely remove from your diet, it's processed meat. You know what I'm talking about: those sizzling sausages, that pink ham, that crispy bacon. On the surface, they look delicious, convenient, and easy to eat. But behind that shiny appearance lies a chemical experiment disguised as food. First, most of these meats come from factory-farmed animals fed cheap grains high in omega-6. And that's only the beginning. After that, they're pumped full of nitrites, nitrates, salt, sugar, artificial colorings, preservatives, and fillers, all to make them last longer on the shelf, keep that bright pink color, and give them that fake delicious flavor you see in every supermarket. I remember one of my patients, a 68-year-old retired engineer. He came to see me with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and chest pain. When I asked about his diet, he sighed and said, "Doc, I live alone. Cooking is a hassle, so I just buy sausages, cold cuts, and bacon for breakfast." Quick, simple, convenient. But that convenience came at a deadly cost. Studies show that even a small but regular intake of processed meat significantly raises the risk of stroke and heart attack, especially in seniors. In his case, those easy meals pushed his heart right to the edge. Science is very clear on this. Nitrites and nitrates in processed meats can turn into nitrosamines inside the body, potent inflammatory compounds linked to cancer, high blood pressure, and heart disease. On top of that, the salt levels are off the charts, driving blood pressure higher every day, like a pressure cooker with no safety valve. Over time, high blood pressure damages artery walls, erodes the protective lining, and creates the perfect surface for plaque to stick and grow. And the end result: a sudden stroke or heart attack. Here's a common misconception. Many people believe that eating just a little is safe. But with processed meat, there's really no such thing as a safe threshold. Every slice of bacon, every piece of sausage plants another seed of inflammation in your body. Those seeds build up quietly, smoldering for years until one day they ignite and burn away the health you've worked so hard to preserve. Now, I know this may feel a little disappointing. For many of you, cold cuts or ham aren't just food. They're part of family traditions, parties, or fond breakfast memories. But I truly believe that knowing the truth is the first step toward making better choices. And your heart, your brain, and your health after 60 years old are worth far more than a moment of convenience. So if I could give you one heartfelt piece of advice today, It's this treat processed meat as the number one enemy of your arteries. Start reducing it, replacing it with clean natural options like wild-caught fish, grass-fed beef, or even plant-based sources rich in omega-3s. Because at the end of the day, what matters most isn't the quick fix of convenience. It's the healthy, peaceful years you'll gain to enjoy with your children and grandchildren, free from the shadow of stroke or heart attack. My friends, if we think the only danger from meat lies in fat or salt, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. In over 30 years of working with people over 50, I've seen something far more concerning. Hidden inside every slice of industrially produced meat is a world of microbes and chemicals that can silently damage our health. Many of my patients have told me, doctor, I don't eat that much, just a few slices of deli meat each day. But the problem isn't only how much you eat. In factory farming, antibiotics and growth hormones are used routinely so livestock can grow faster and resist disease. But when these substances make their way into our bodies, especially in older adults whose immune systems are already weaker, they disrupt the balance of gut bacteria. And when that balance breaks down, immunity drops, chronic inflammation flares up, and the stage is set for heart disease, stroke, and a host of other long-term illnesses. But that's not the end of the story. There's another hidden danger most people overlook, compounds called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. The name sounds technical, but they show up in everyday cooking. Every time we fry or grill meat at high heat, Gs are created and locked into the meat. Once inside our bodies, they latch onto blood vessels, making them stiff and less elastic. This is what I often call the sweet trap. On the outside, it's a tasty, sizzling meal, but inside, it's a ticking time bomb, speeding up aging, fueling plaque buildup, and pushing us closer to stroke or heart attack. I remember one of my patients, Mr. Charles, age 67. He thought frying a few crispy strips of bacon every morning was a harmless habit. But after a mild heart attack sent him to the hospital, we ran some tests and found clear signs of vascular damage, even though he never smoked or drank. The only culprit, years of eating fried processed meats rich in ages and hidden chemicals. He told me if I had known those delicious slices carried such risks, I would have chosen a different breakfast. And friends, Mr. Charles' story isn't unusual. It's a powerful reminder that the most dangerous threats aren't always the ones we see, they're the ones hidden beneath the surface. For older adults whose bodies are more sensitive and slower to recover, those hidden threats can be especially harmful. That's why when we choose our daily foods, we need to remember we're not just eating to fill our stomachs. We're eating to protect our hearts, our brains, and the peaceful years still ahead of us. Now, I know this may feel a little disappointing. For many of you, cold cuts or ham aren't just food, they're part of family traditions, parties, or fond breakfast memories. But I truly believe that knowing the truth is the first step toward making better choices. And your heart, your brain, and your health after 60 years old are worth far more than a moment of convenience. So if I could give you one heartfelt piece of advice today, it's this: treat processed meat as the number one enemy of your arteries. Start reducing it, replacing it with clean natural options like wild-caught fish, grass-fed beef, or even plant-based sources rich in omega-3s. Because at the end of the day, what matters most isn't the quick fix of convenience. It's the healthy, peaceful years you'll gain to enjoy with your children and grandchildren, free from the shadow of stroke or heart attack. My friends, as you can see, the dangers of industrial meat aren't just about fat or salt. The real threats often come from the invisible things like antibiotics, hormones, and those harmful compounds called AG. But here's the good news: we absolutely have the power to choose a different path, a gentler, safer, and more sustainable way to protect our hearts. In my years of working with the older patients, I've realized something important. No one is forcing us to give up meat completely. The real key lies in what kind of meat we choose and how we eat it. Natural meats like grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, pasture-raised pork, or wild-caught fish not only taste better, but they also carry fewer chemicals and more nutrients. I often remind my patients, every piece of clean, natural meat is an investment in your heart and your brain. Here's a simple but powerful tip: gradually replace processed meats, things like sausage, bacon, or deli meat, with healthier alternatives. For example, instead of starting the day with crispy bacon, try a slice of omega-3 rich salmon, or something as simple as a ripe avocado with a handful of crunchy walnuts. Even small swaps like this can free your body from a heavy load of chemicals and unhealthy fats. And let's not forget the healing power of herbs, nature's gifts to us. Turmeric, garlic, and ginger, these three allies have been proven to fight inflammation, reduce LDL oxidation, and protect the delicate lining of your blood vessels. Add a little fresh ginger to your morning tea or season your stew with garlic and turmeric. It not only makes your food taste richer, but also strengthens your health at the same time. I always remind my patients, eat less, but eat real. A diet that is green, clean, and real means prioritizing fresh, minimally processed foods with a clear source. You don't need a lavish table full of dishes, just simple quality meals that give your body the chance to heal itself and live longer. My friends, after the age of 60, health is like a garden. If we plant clean seeds and nourish it with wholesome foods, that garden will keep flourishing, giving us sweet fruits for the years to come. And that's the most powerful yet simple way for seniors like us to protect the heart, lower the risk of stroke and heart attack, not through drastic decisions, but through small, consistent choices every single day, starting with your very next meal. You see, after talking about smarter choices for our daily meals, I want us to pause and reflect on one very important truth. People often argue, is red meat worse than white meat? Should I eat beef or chicken? But honestly, that's not the real question. In over 30 years of working with older patients, I've learned that the real issue isn't the color of the meat. It's how that meat was raised and how it's processed. A grass-fed steak from a cow raised without hormones or antibiotics is completely different from a slice of sausage or bacon from the supermarket. Both are called meat, but one nourishes the body, while the other quietly damages your arteries. And that's what we really need to worry about. Industrial meat, processed meat, those are the true silent enemies of heart health. I've seen so many patients who thought, it's just a little sausage in the morning, it can't hurt. But over the years, the salt, nitrates, and bad fats build up day after day, making their arteries stiff until suddenly a stroke or a heart attack strikes without warning. On the other hand, the people who chose clean meats added omega-3 rich fish and ate in moderation. They usually had steadier blood pressure, more flexible arteries, and a much better quality of life. And science backs this up. Studies show that one of the biggest drivers of chronic inflammation, the root of many heart problems, is the imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 fats in the modern diet. When we eat too many industrial oils, fried foods, and processed meats, omega-6 levels skyrocket, while omega-3s from natural fish or walnuts remain too low. The result? Blood vessels stuck in a constant state of stress, making them fragile and prone to damage. So if you're a senior who truly wants to prevent stroke and heart attack, remember this: heart health begins right at your dining table. Every time you put a piece of meat on your plate, ask yourself, where did this come from? Is it really nourishing me, or is it quietly harming me? When you choose wisely, you're giving your heart the chance to beat strong for millions more healthy beats. My friends, after 60, life is more precious than ever. We don't need fancy dishes, just simple, honest food. Honest in origin, honest in quality, because it's those small, everyday choices that quietly write the story of our heart and our brain. And I truly believe if you start with your meal today, the road ahead will be brighter, longer, and filled with the joy of living healthy. My friends, after walking through the hidden dangers of industrial meat and our daily eating habits, I want to pause here and remind you of something simple but powerful. Your heart health is not decided in the emergency room. It is planted and nurtured every single day right at your dining table. From my 30-plus years of experience, I can tell you this: when someone learns to choose the right foods, they don't just lower their risk of stroke or heart attack, they often regain energy, mental clarity, and joy in their golden years. We can't change the past, but today, with the very next meal, we can make smarter choices. Sometimes just swapping a slice of bacon for half an avocado or replacing sausage with grilled salmon is already a small step that makes a big difference for the heart. So if this video has given you a bit of inspiration, please hit like, share it with your friends or loved ones, because who knows, it might be the gift that helps them prevent a stroke in the future. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments this week. What food will you try swapping out for the sake of your heart? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so we can meet again in the upcoming videos. Remember, taking care of your heart is just like caring for a lifelong companion who has carried you through the decades. It deserves your respect. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.